value on the potential losses that we are averting, why doesn't that play a bigger role in your cost-benefit analysis when you're looking at the feasibility of a project?
Yes, sir. So this is a great question. Clearly something the Corps has to get better on in comprehensive benefits. So I'll just give you two areas, sir, where we are trying to improve. We have a number of flood risk management projects and navigation projects that have a national security implication. We're working on one in North Dakota in Minot. You could use the Sioux Locks as an example. The Port of Nome in Alaska, it's a remote and subsistence harbor, but the Coast Guard and Navy can use that. So we're challenged on those type of projects to quantify the national security benefit. We have flood risk management projects today in Selma, Alabama, or in Princeville, North Carolina, that preserve cultural and historic properties, and we struggle to put a monetary value on that. But it's something with the Secretary's leadership, sir, we absolutely get it. It's something we have to improve upon.
Well, General, I misspoke. I said 1.5 trillion. The real figure is 2.7 trillion.
What you just watched is exactly why Senate hearings matter when they're done right. This wasn't grandstanding. This wasn't empty politics. This was Senator John Kennedy doing what oversight is supposed to look like. Reading the receipts, asking the uncomfortable questions, and refusing to let bureaucratic math override common sense. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers literally admits, on its own website, that its flood control projects have prevented over $2.7 trillion in damages. Not million, not billion, trillion. And yet somehow, when it's time to approve projects, that massive benefit barely factors into the decision-making process. That contradiction is what Senator John Kennedy zeroed in on, and frankly, it needed to be said out loud. If you care about accountability, taxpayer value, and why America's infrastructure always seems to cost more and deliver less, you're in the right place. This is Congress Lens. I'm Audrey. If you value clear-eyed political analysis without the spin, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Let's get into it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could you put that up for me right quick? Yes, sir. Thank you, ma'am. General, I know you can't see that, but it's a page from your website, and let me read you the relevant sentence. It says the Mississippi River and Tributaries Project, which of course is how we pay for flood control and levees. The Mississippi River and Tributaries Project has prevented more than $1.5 trillion, not billion, trillion, in flood damages since 1928. Or $95 for every $1 invested. This is from your website. How was this compiled, that data compiled, General?
Yes, sir. So it's simply taking the cost of the project and comparing it to the benefits that you're describing. Structure saved, acres preserved, recreation opportunities. So it's a comparison between the simple math between the cost and benefits.
So you have the ability at the Corps, your economists and others, to calculate losses, potential losses.
Yes, sir, we do.
And what this is telling me is that without the Corps of Engineers work, funded as I described, with respect to levees and flood control, the American people would have sustained damages of $1.5 trillion. Is that right?
Yes, sir, I believe that's correct.
Okay. Here's what I'm getting at, General. If you have this ability, and I believe you do, I'm not suggesting that this isn't accurate. I'm very grateful that this is accurate, and I'm very grateful to the Corps. But if your folks have this ability to put a value on the potential losses that we are averting, why doesn't that play a bigger role in your cost-benefit analysis when you're looking at the feasibility of a project?
Yes, sir. So this is clearly is a great question. Clearly something the Corps has to get better on in comprehensive benefits. So I'll just give you two areas, sir, where we are trying to improve. We have a number of flood risk management projects and navigation projects that have a national security implication. We're working on one in North Dakota and in Minot. You could use the Sioux Locks as an example. The Port of Nome in Alaska, it's a remote and subsistence harbor, but the Coast Guard and Navy can use that. So we're challenged on those type of projects to quantify the national security benefit. We have flood risk management projects today in Selma, Alabama, or in Princeville, North Carolina, that preserve cultural and historic properties, and we struggle to put a monetary value on that. But it's something with the Secretary's leadership, sir, we absolutely get it. It's something we have to improve upon.
Well, General, I misspoke. I said 1.5 trillion. The real figure is 2.7 trillion, which your work has prevented. $2.7 trillion in damages. And your economists, you stand by that number, I assume.
Yes, sir.
And your economists have a way to come up with that number.
That's correct.
It just makes no sense to me if we can quantify the losses that would be prevented by building a flood control project, that we wouldn't make that one of the determining factors in the cost-benefit analysis. I mean, I gave you the statistic. The Morganza of the Gulf levee system prevented flooding to 12,000 homes. And you can quantify that. Don't you think we ought to change the formula a little bit?
Well, so the way you're describing a loss prevented is a benefit of these projects. The Morganza example, I would argue, sir, we have many of those. We have many Morganzas across the country that we have to get better on in resourcing. Yes,
I'm going to ask you one quick question in the time I have left. The price of the Comite River Diversion Canal has gone up $500 million. How? I know inflation, but wow.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
What are we going to do about that?
Sir, you've got inflation down. The thing that we're taking on, this is a great example where we have to get better at communicating to the committees and to Congress and administration the cost estimates that we give you in a chief's report in paragraph 11. And we give you a number with some decimal points on it for a project that may be constructed down the road, but what we don't give you is the percent design that cost estimate is based on. So in a 3x3 study, a district might get to a 10% level design, or a 4-year study, they might get to 25%. And then as that design is mature, like it is now today in Comite, you're finding that there are additional requirements that we get as we get deeper into the geotech and to the sizing of some of these structures. That's what we're experiencing here, and it's something we've got to get better on in communicating to you and others.
How did we get that number? We got a hell of a mess here, General. Okay, my people expected this to be done. We brought it in on time. I mean, and then all of a sudden, bam, $500 million. How are we going to get this price down?
Sir, you have our commitment that we're going to work through this. We're committed to finishing this. I don't have all the answers here today. I can share my commitment that we will get this done.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Heinrich.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Tootin, I want to ask you about how you're balancing the drought relief efforts across the West. And I think it's clear that as reservoir levels in the Colorado Basin have dropped, it's really captured the attention of the country. But for the Colorado Basin...
After watching this entire exchange, one thing is very clear. Senator John Kennedy is asking the questions too many people in Washington avoid. Let's start with the core issue. The Army Corps of Engineers has the technical and economic capability to calculate losses prevented. Their own economists can tell us how many homes were saved, how much land was preserved, and how much money Americans didn't lose because flood control systems existed. That's not speculation, that's data. So when Senator John Kennedy asks, why isn't this one of the determining factors in cost-benefit analysis? That is not a political attack. That is a logic check. If a project prevents billions, or trillions, in damage, then calling it too expensive without fully weighing those prevented losses is not fiscal responsibility. It's bureaucratic tunnel vision. And what's telling is that the general doesn't deny the math. The general doesn't dispute the numbers. The general agrees the Corps needs to do better. That alone validates Senator John Kennedy's line of questioning. Then there's the national security angle. Projects like the Sioux Locks, the Port of Nome in Alaska, and flood control systems that can be used by the Coast Guard or Navy aren't just infrastructure, they're strategic assets. Yet the Corps admits it struggles to assign them proper value. That's a problem. You cannot run a country on spreadsheets that ignore reality. Senator John Kennedy also brings up historic and cultural preservation, places like Selma, Alabama, and Princeville, North Carolina. Communities with deep historical significance that risk being washed away, literally. If those aren't worth protecting because they're hard to price, then the system itself is broken. But the moment that really drives this home is the Comite River Diversion Canal. A $500 million cost increase. $500 million. And Congress is just supposed to nod along because of design maturity and geotechnical discoveries? Senator John Kennedy is right to be angry here. People were told this project was on track. Budgets were approved. Expectations were set. Then suddenly, bam, another $500 million appears. That's not inflation. That's poor upfront transparency. And when Senator John Kennedy says, "We've got a hell of a mess here," he's voicing what taxpayers are thinking. Families don't get to revise their budgets by $500 million. Small businesses don't get to say, "We'll explain it later." Government shouldn't either. To the general's credit, there is a commitment to finish the project. But commitment after the fact doesn't replace accountability before the check is written. This exchange is exactly why Senator John Kennedy resonates with so many voters. He speaks plainly, he reads the source material himself, and he doesn't let polished answers slide when they don't add up. This isn't about party. This is about value, transparency, and competence. And if more hearings looked like this, Americans might actually trust their institutions again. That's my take. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one, right here on Congress Lens.